thank you for joining us in this webinar about why do companies need a grievance mechanism. Today we will discuss this topic, and I really hope you get some insights and some inspiration from this presentation. As you know, we usually like to start with definitions, and in this case, if we really want to talk about grievance mechanism, we definitely need to include it as part of the UN guiding principles, in concretely pillar 3, that speaks about access to remedy. In that pillar 3, we understand two very important points. The first one is that in the UN guiding principles, access to remedy, it is expected that, first of all, states take the necessary measures, both judicial and non-judicial, to ensure remedy. And secondly, business enterprises have to establish or participate in effective operational level grievance mechanism for individuals and communities who may be adversely impacted by their actions and omissions. So we realize immediately that states have again the first level of responsibility, and secondly, business enterprises have to establish in a way additional effective avenues to ensure that individuals or communities affected by their activities have a space to raise their concerns. So the first question that this Pillar 3 brings us today is, what does it mean an operational level grievance mechanism? Because I think we all know what a grievance mechanism is, and we actually been familiar with this concept already for a while, but it's also true that is in the UN guiding principles that the term operational level grievance mechanism is for the first time used. And of course, what does it mean, or when can we say that this operational level grievance mechanism is going to be effective? In order to get closer to that definition, I will use the definition used by Business and Human Rights Organization. It is mentioned in their website that an operational level grievance mechanism is a formalized means through which individuals or groups can raise concerns about the impact an enterprise has on them, including, but not exclusively, on their human rights, and they can seek for remedy. Let's remind us that also the German due diligence law expects a grievance mechanism where employees, direct suppliers, and other actors in the supply chain can raise concerns. Let's see that the German due diligence law is being more specific in the different actors that can raise their concerns through the grievance mechanism set up by different organizations. So grievance mechanism therefore serve to complement the human rights due diligence process and allow stakeholders to raise concerns, provide feedback about potential and actual adverse human rights impacts possibly caused by the enterprise, either by their actions or omissions. So it is a way to provide feedback, it is a way to raise concerns, and it's also, and not less important, a way to claim a remedy if the adverse effect has already been caused. The concept, therefore, of grievance mechanism seems clear. However, how does it work in practice? How can a company make sure that they are able to create this avenue of communication between them and stakeholders and vice versa? So, in order to try to get around the practical component of this concept, we might wonder or might ask ourselves what are the obstacles that we can see in our companies when trying to set up operational level grievance mechanism, and also how can it how can I possibly provide satisfactory remedy when that is required. In order to answer those questions, let's first start with the possible obstacles that you can identify. Um, Here I'm listing a few that I can imagine that one can face during our daily job as CSR professionals. But of course, you might wonder, or you might actually like to take the time to list up the specific obstacles that you can face or you may be facing in your own company. So I list, for example, the fact that I can feel that I don't have the competence to judge if, first of all, a concern that has been raised is legitimate or not. Maybe I am lacking that level of competence, level of uh, analytical thinking and judgment, but also I might think that I'm not having the competence to judge if the community or the stakeholder that has raised that concern has the legitimacy to raise that concern. Another obstacle can be that I don't have the infrastructure to investigate if there is a causal link between my activities within the company, my company's activity, and the concern raised by a stakeholder. That is very common and it's actually crucial because indeed one of the elements that I need not only from a legal perspective but also from a moral and a rational perspective, I need to be able to understand the causal link between my actions or omissions and the concern raised by the stakeholder. I need to be able to do that in order to limit it and strengthen my responsibility. So, if I'm lacking the necessary structure to investigate, I'm probably will feel unable um, to decodify these links. Another obstacle could be that I certainly don't have the competence nor the infrastructure to set up a fair remedy. So let's imagine that even having the competence to judge that the concern raised through the grievance mechanism is legitimate, the stakeholder that has raised that concern has the legitimacy to do that. I have even managed to have the infrastructure and the competence to identify and investigate that there is a causal link between my actions and omissions and the concern raised by that legitimate stakeholder. Even then, I might have identified that I don't have the competence nor the infrastructure to set up a fair remedy. So all these obstacles are real and need to be taken into consideration and seriously discussed within the company and eventually with the different stakeholders. So let's try to draft or to conceive a stepwise approach to make sure that we can, even if making baby steps, we can move forward in this quite complex topic of grievance mechanism. The first suggestion would be to start by assessing the adequate level of in-house competence. So we have already mentioned the obstacles that we might be wondering if we have within our premises. Now will be the time to assess what is the actual level of competence we have in-house. So you might like to set up two lists. One for defining, for example, the operational processes where your company might be in contact with human dignity and environmental violations, because those are, let's say, the two components of potential human rights violations. And to narrow it or and help you to make that list, you might start by identifying not yet the operational processes, but actually the places where those processes may take place. So for example, in factories, through logistics, in your office, when negotiating contracts, why not when communicating with consumers. Once you have identified that in the list, you may also consider identifying how your company's action and omissions may impact those operational processes. The second suggestion will be to identify your potential operational allies. You already know that in the CSR arena, you really need to work and develop alliance. You cannot do this alone. So why not start in each operational level identifying who could become your grievance ally? Who can you trust? Who can you get better or more trained on these topics? What kind of information that person can already provide you with, and what kind of capacity building might that person need? So again, you can go through the different operational processes or operational levels if you wish, and try to identify your potential allies. The third suggestion would be to identify within your company and even within your supply chain what similar channels you already have in place. Do you have a consumer's hotline, or maybe a quality control system, or a whistleblower, or a crisis management, or a compliance hotline? All these channels, all these avenues of communication between your company and the different stakeholders are already in the same line of thinking that an operational level grievance mechanism, and therefore you can not only build on them but also gather the different learnings and expertise and infrastructure that your company has already developed along those lines. So you don't need to start from zero. Another suggestion would be to identify what are the judicial channels in the main regions where you source from. I don't think we ask ourselves enough how much do we know about the way the legal systems work in the regions where we source from. And I think that very question is crucial for us to gather the necessary competence we need to manage an operational level grievance mechanism. So try to gather information about it. Will be a very fruitful investment. And if you don't have the financial resources to pay for a great investigation about it, you can always consider, again, partnerships. You can consider partnering with legal students that may want to investigate it for you. You may partner with other companies that are sourcing from the same regions and that can be also interested in getting that understanding. You can also check with Chamber of Commerce It is true that Chamber of Commerce, they have this type of information, but usually that information will provide you only a first and very generic information about the legal systems, whereas you need something a little bit more specific on trying to understand how a complaint is filed and investigated within those countries. And then you always keep in mind that in almost every country there is a national human rights. There are national human rights institutions set up in many countries and that are reporting to the UN and that therefore can be also source of information on this type of information. And well, to conclude with the suggestions, I would like to emphasize on the understanding on the word remedy, because it is very important that we clarified in every conversation what we are talking about when we discuss about remedy. Keep in mind that in the UN Guiding Principles, remedy refers to 3 different concepts, and you need to be very much aware of which one you are talking about when you are talking about. So remedy refers sometimes to the right to remedy, and that let's be open and acknowledge that every potential victim has that right. It also refers to the process in terms of, again, the avenue that needs to be transparent and genuine to provide result to the potential victim, and remedy understood as the result, as the actual outcome of a complaint that needs to be fair, proportionate, and legitimate. So I hope you enjoyed and you got some insights from this presentation. But if you think that you need to learn more and you are interested, please contact us. We are developing a wonderful 4 modules macro learnings to provide you with deeper and further information on this topic, including homework assignments for you to really navigate operational level grievance mechanism. We are passionate about making sustainable companies thrive. Please count on us. Thank you very much.